next speaker, as I just said, is Brenda Hogan. Brenda's from the Ontario Capital Growth Corporation. She's an investment and portfolio manager. OCGC, I'm gonna get tripping over some of these acronyms by the end of the day, but OCGC manages the interests of Government of Ontario in the 205 million Ontario Venture Capital Fund, and manages and operates the Ontario Emerging Technologies Fund, the OETF. This is a $250 million fund that co-invests in innovative, high-growth private Ontario companies. Brenda's played a lead role in the development and implementation of the OETF. She's responsible for ongoing development and management of the investment portfolio, as well as providing advice on investment strategy and policy. Again, if you have any questions, I think there'll be a bit of time at the end, and Brenda will be available as well. So with that, welcome, Brenda.
Thanks, David, for that introduction. As David mentioned, I'm investment and portfolio manager with the Ontario Capital Growth Corporation. I'm really delighted to have been asked to come here today and provide you with an overview of the Ontario Emerging Technologies Fund, or as we call it, OETF. And I will be available following the presentation to discuss any specific investments, transactions you may be looking at, because like snowflakes, no two companies and no two situations are alike. What I do want to do is give you a bit of an overview. I also have some cards on the table, so there will be a chance after I'll be out there to answer questions and what have you. So to give you some context for this, in March of 2009, the Government of Ontario announced a $250 million Emerging Technologies Fund. And the goal of that fund, oh, I should get my slides going. Sorry. Yeah. And the goal of that fund was to deploy much needed capital into innovative, high-growth Ontario-based companies. Now, the Ontario Capital Growth Corporation is the agency responsible for managing and holding the interests, the province's interest in that fund. So OCGC will invest in companies and sectors that have been deemed to be of strategic importance to the province of Ontario. And those would namely be clean tech, life sciences, advanced health, technologies, digital media, information and communications technology sectors. So how does the fund work? Well, the fund is based on the principle that we're going to follow the lead of the qualified investor who has identified and evaluated an investment opportunity. So in other words, we don't invest in companies on our own, but we go in as part of a syndicate with other market-based investors. And so that brings us to a question, well, what is a qualified investor? Well, quite simply, a qualified investor is an investor, for example, a venture capital fund, an angel investor, or a corporate investor who's eligible to submit a potential co-investment opportunity to the fund for consideration. So investors apply to us to become qualified. And when looking at the investor, we really look at three things. One, what's their background in the sector? Do they know the sector? Two, have they invested before? And what has been the result of that? Have they had exits? And thirdly, have they had experience operating a company in this particular sector? Because again, we're not the ones going out picking the companies. So we are looking at that lead investor to have that expertise in the market. So if the investment opportunity meets our criteria, then we may make a co-investment in that company alongside with that lead investor. And like any venture capital fund or investor, we do reserve the right to exercise discretion to not make any particular investment, even though it may meet all of a given criteria. And as I mentioned earlier, Ontario co-invests alongside qualified private sector investors. So that being the case, again, to reiterate, it's that qualified investor who sources the company, assesses the company, negotiates the investment, all based on market principles. So in other words, we're not deal hunters per se, but what we're here to do is rely upon the expertise of the private sector and come in to help close a financing round that otherwise may not be able to be closed in the marketplace because of the capital situation. And we also mirror the market when we make an initial investment, and that we reserve capital for follow-on, because we know companies at these early stages, they're going to need 2, 3, 4 rounds of financing before they get to any sort of an exit. And certainly if you're looking at life sciences companies, you're probably looking at more, and you're looking at a longer runway. And so we notionally set aside, for every dollar we invest in a company, we notionally set aside about 3 for follow-on. And in terms of structure, we hold a minority interest in the company. So we'll do it by equity or quasi-equity, similar to other investors in that vein, when we expect the same economic terms. So we're not looking to be on better terms than the other investors, but we're certainly not looking to go in on worse terms. So now let's look at what is an eligible investment. So quite simply, to reiterate, the fund is designed to invest in opportunities that will contribute to the growth of innovative Ontario companies. So we have established eligibility criteria for the investments that we'll consider, and in particular, we're targeting companies at a specific stage of growth, so fairly early stage. And in particular, we're looking at clean tech, ICT, digital media, life sciences, and assisted medical devices. And companies must also maintain what we call an Ontario footprint. And because we're provincially sponsored, in other words, the province of Ontario is our only LP, the matter of the footprint is an important attribute. And so I'd like to highlight that a little more in some detail. So essentially, in order to meet this provision, the company that we'd be looking at investing in would have to be privately held at the time that the initial investment is made. I mean, we're not there to compete with companies on a public exchange. The company would have to have 50% of its wages, salaries, and fees to employees in Ontario. So we understand that there may need to be some sales and marketing people, for example, in Boston if you're a life sciences company. But generally speaking, the majority of the activity needs to be happening here in Ontario. The majority of the company's full-time employees need to be in Ontario. And in terms of the senior management, the majority of the senior officers must maintain a permanent principal residence here. So again, we know that depending, if you're in the ICT space, maybe you need some salespeople in Silicon Valley. We understand that, but again, because our LP is the province, the majority of the people need to be here on the C-suite side. So now we'll look at the parameters around how much we can invest in a given company. So there are 4 elements in particular that are useful to highlight. And just as I get into this, to give me a sense of where to go here, how many of you are companies? And how many of you would be investors? Okay, thanks. So the total amount that we can put in a company on the first time we go into an investment is $5 million. We certainly can do less because you may have a situation where your company is looking for let's say $6 million. You already have $5 million. You just need us to come in for that additional $1 million. That we can do, but the max is going to be $5 million. Secondly, the aggregate amount of all the investments made in the company from us over the life of the company can't be more than $25 million. You can appreciate that if we have a fund of $250 million, it's prudent that we put a cap on what we can do in one given company. And thirdly, in terms of criteria, the investment that we put in can't be more than that lead qualified investor, and it can't be more than 50% of the round, because if you go back to the principle I mentioned when I first started speaking, we're here to help close rounds that otherwise couldn't be closed in the marketplace. And if we're putting in over 50% of the money, it's going to be pretty hard to convince anyone that we're following. In that case, we'd be leading. And again, really we're here as a catalyst, not a driver of a transaction. And I think you'll find that with any fund, they typically have a limit to what they're prepared to put into a given company. So in terms of some additional features to share with you, the investment range, we can look at $1 to $5 million, certainly in terms of financing rounds. If we're looking at larger rounds, let's say between 4 and 15, then we would need sort of one qualified investor and a second investor putting in a meaningful amount in the transaction. If it's a portfolio investment, so in other words, if the lead investor has already invested in that company, then again, we'd look for a second investor putting in some meaningful amount, and that's usually around 20% or so. So as a co-investor, OETF by design is really following the lead of the private sector market. So in terms of what you can expect of us as an investor, we follow the investment decisions of the qualified investors. So again, we're not here to pick the winners and say this is a good company, this is not. We're relying on these experts that they've run companies, they know the sector, they've worked in the space, they've invested before, they have some exits. And we review the capabilities of that lead investor, whether it be an angel, whether it be a VC, whether it be a corporate investor. We're open to capital from all different sources, so long as they have that requisite background. And we're also able to invest alongside investors who may be from Europe, who may be from the States. In fact, we've done investments already where we do have Boston-based VCs. We've invested with Silicon Valley-based VCs. We have Vertex over in Israel that's looking to do some transactions with us. So long as that money is coming into Ontario companies, we're prepared to look at those opportunities. In terms of the deal structure ourselves, we get a lot of questions around what do we expect to see in a transaction. Typically, we're looking for market-based market-based conditions and what have you. And so therefore, typically speaking, what the lead investor negotiates, so long as it doesn't prejudice our rights, we're prepared to go alongside that, all things equal. And on our website, we have something called the OETF guidelines, which sets out more of the kinds of things we'd be looking at in terms of piggyback, drag along rights, but generally speaking, they're what you'd expect any investor to be looking for. In terms of board participation, we typically would not take a board seat. However, because this is an investment, we are expected to monitor it, obviously, and so we do take observer status so that we can attend the board meetings, that we can access the financial statements, the business plan, and all of those things so we can be prudent in the management of the portfolio. And in terms of the rights of all the shareholders, again, we would expect to see the rights that they would be getting. With respect to covenants, I mentioned the Ontario footprint, and by that I meant where the senior C-suite executives are living, where the employees are, where the wages are being paid. So for us, we would expect to see that would be maintained through the life of the investment, so long as we're in. And like any investor, we will monitor. We're not an active investor in that we're not going to be in the company on a day-to-day basis like many investors would be. By design, that's why we go alongside the lead investor, because they're the ones really there with that hands-on expertise. And in terms of what happens after we make that initial investment, we do have situations now where companies, we invested in them a year and a half ago, the business is growing, the lead investor is prepared to go back and do a follow-on investment, and all things equal, we would look to participate as part of that financing round. So the bottom line really is that we go in when that lead investor goes in. We follow on with that lead investor so long as all of our conditions and what have you are met. And when that investor exits, we would look to exit on basically the same terms that he or she would be looking to exit. So since launching about a year and a half ago now, we've seen active pipeline investors coming from the US, from Canada, from overseas. And we've seen a steady flow of deal activity. And if we want to talk about sort of, I guess, successes to date, we've... so we've closed 16 deals to date. Actually, another one this past Monday, so we're really 17 now. That equates to a commitment from OCGC of around $35 million. And that doesn't count the money we notionally save for follow-on. We've qualified 20 investors. Now, when you go to our website, you will see a list of the investors we've qualified. Now, if there's an investor with whom you're dealing that's not there, it doesn't mean we won't do business with them. It may just mean they've not approached us yet. And these are some of the portfolio companies to date. You'll see there are some in the life sciences, some in the ICT, some in digital media. So it's been sort of a sprinkling of everything. And the qualified investors, you'll see some are local. You'll see BDC, and we have a representative from BDC in the crowd today, and they've been a good investment, a syndicate partner. GrowthWorks, Tech Capital, Vertex from Israel, Grand Banks from Boston, and of course the BlackBerry Fund and what have you. So just as I close here, just to reiterate a few points. Again, we're here to respond to the challenges that companies in emerging spaces have in raising capital. We're here to invest alongside private sector investors. We invest directly into the company, so we take an equity position, so we become part owner of that company. We target opportunities in clean tech, life sciences, digital media, and medical devices. And the concept here is that we be self-sustaining through a return on investment. So the idea being is that we invest in company A. At some point, there'll be an exit, either through an IPO, a merger, some transaction. Company may buy us out. And then that capital, with the return that we hope we'll earn on that, will go back into the fund and we'll be able to invest in more companies. So this has really been a high-level overview of the fund. And I'll be available, as I mentioned, following this. If you have some questions, some cards are on the table. And if you still can't find me, you can certainly call OC, and David knows how to track me down.
Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, I'm David Choate, Vice President with the Ontario Centres of Excellence. Again, I'll say we have another 2 chairs down at the front here. If anyone wants to come down and sit, please do that. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our next innovation partner presentation. And it's Mark Roseman. Mark is the manager of the Ontario Network of Excellence Unit in the Ministry of Research and Innovation. The one is a province-wide innovation network which supports entrepreneurs and technology-based businesses as they launch and grow ideas and companies. Prior to his current role, Mark served in Cabinet Office as well as in the Corporate Policy Unit at MRI. Before joining the Ontario Public Service, Mark advised the federal government on nanotechnology-related policies and practices and served as the Associate Scientific Director of the NSERC Nano Innovation Platform Program. Again, same format. After Mark's spoken, we'll see if we've got some questions from the audience, and if not, Mark, I'm sure, will be around for the balance of the afternoon to answer any more questions. So, Mark Roseman.
Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity to come and speak to you here this afternoon. I'm from the Ministry of Research and Innovation, and I'll be talking to you this afternoon about the Ontario Network of Excellence, or ONE. There we go. So ONE is Ontario's renewed innovation network and features a delivery model that is focused on clients. It's very client-centric, and all that we do with the purpose of assisting entrepreneurs and technology-based businesses to launch and grow their ideas and companies. There are three main goals of the network. First, to build globally focused investor-ready companies. The second, to launch new products and services to the global marketplace. And the third, to help companies obtain access to the expertise and the infrastructure in the province's research institutions. This would be the universities and the colleges. Why is the ONE important? Well, there are a number of reasons. For us, it's a vehicle to nurture and grow the pipeline of entrepreneurs and companies in the province. It's the foundation of a grow from within philosophy. And when we do this very much with a focus on regions. So regions are considered the building blocks of the provincial economy, and to the greatest extent possible, we've tried to harness the local leadership in the regions and push the decision-making down to the regions so that they can better service the clientele. From a corporate perspective, of course, it's a means for us to reduce duplication and streamline delivery by having all of our member partners under the ONE umbrella. And by implementing global best practices, we can course correct as we move along. So in the next several slides, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the guiding principles of the ONE and discuss some of the members of the ONE and some of the programs and services that are offered through the ONE. Number of guiding principles, again, client-focused. In this case, our clientele are those entrepreneurs and tech-based businesses that play in the innovation space. With all of our member organizations, we've tried to ensure clear organizational mandates in order to increase efficiencies and reduce duplication. We've tried to provide accessible support throughout the province, and to do this, we've partnered with a number of organizations located around Ontario in order to try and make geography as irrelevant as possible for a client seeking to access the programs and services of the network. In order to do this, of course, we need to adopt a rather collaborative approach and ensure that all the members of the network are integrated and work well with each other in order to refer clients to each other and to provide all kinds of programs and services that are required. From a government perspective, it's very important for us to have accountable and transparent governance. This, of course, has been in the news a lot in the past number of years with respect to a number of government programs, so we take that very seriously. And we've instituted in this network a standardized performance measurement system so that we can better understand the kinds of results we're achieving and implement continuous improvement as we move along. So conceptually, the model of the ONE looks something like this, and it's predicated on the philosophy that provincial coordination coupled with regional delivery is going to yield better results. So at the top, we have provincial support and oversight by the Ministry of Research and Innovation. We've partnered with the Ontario Centres of Excellence and MARS to be provincial coordinators of the two streams of programming that the ONE delivers. The OCE is responsible for programming that focuses on industry-academic partnerships, and Mars is coordinating the line of programming that focuses on business acceleration. One level underneath are all the regional members of the One scattered throughout the province, which includes universities, colleges, regional innovation centers, which I'll talk about shortly, and sector innovation centers. Now, all of these member organizations are not-for-profits, and all of them have a mandate to serve as commercialization experts to the clients that the network services. So again, provincial coordination provided by OC and Mars. Colleges and universities, or the research institutions, are also members of the One. They undertake collaborative commercialization and tech transfer activities. We have the regional innovation centers, which serve as the regional focal points for the network, as well as some sector innovation centers, which provide highly sector-specific programs and services. So the RICs, or Regional Innovation Centers. These basically serve as the client access point for the One. They are intended to provide local one-stop shopping for clients seeking to access the programs and services. And there are various not-for-profits which were chosen on a peer-reviewed competitive basis, launched in the fall and the winter by the minister. We've asked them to adopt a regional alliance approach, which basically means that we've asked them to reach out within their regions to all the other relevant organizations that would provide programs and services to this type of clientele. And we've asked them to gather around the table in order to ensure that all the relevant programming is accessible at the RIC by the client. So as much as possible to reduce the kind of trouble that the client has to go through in navigating the various programs and services. The RIC is primarily responsible for delivering the business acceleration programming, which is focused on solving business issues. And they partner with the OCE in delivering the industry academic collaboration programs, which I'll talk about in a slide or two. I just wanted to give you an overview of the coverage that the One has. This map shows the location of the regional innovation centers. There's 14 RICs across 17 locations. And you can see that we've tried our best to ensure comprehensive coverage geographically. Of course, it's a challenge in the north, but there are 4 centers located there, quite a number of centers located in southern Ontario. And again, we've tried our best to ensure that all of these RICs form a mesh network, that they adopt a collaborative approach to servicing clients. And to that effect, we meet with them on a regular basis in order to share best practices and to ensure a common level of service to the clients. In terms of the types of programs that the One offers, again, there's 2 streams, one focused on industry academic collaborations. That's really about leveraging the expertise and infrastructure in the research institutions. It's about ensuring that the intellectual property developed at the research institutions is made as accessible to the market as possible. And the third component of that program is about training the next generation of entrepreneurs by giving them some real-world experiences. The second line of programming deals with business issues, and that's about education, networking, mentorship, intelligence, and capital and financing opportunities. So for example, on the industry academic side of things, in order to address technology issues, we have a number of programs that promote collaborative commercialization. For example, if you're a company who makes a widget and you're looking to undertake some research in order to improve from a technology perspective the functioning of your widget, the One can help you link with the appropriate researcher in the university and college system in order to do that research. We'll also provide some funding so that you can improve your product and gain a competitive advantage. There's also a talent component, as I mentioned, which is geared towards providing real-world experience for students. This is everything from courses to scholarships to the First Job program, which actually subsidizes the first-year salary for the students working in industry. On the business issues side of things, there's a number of programs. Educational programs. This includes both online and in-person components in order to educate entrepreneurs, and this runs the spectrum from first-time entrepreneur all the way up to serial entrepreneur. We have a number of advisory programs. We use entrepreneurs in residence who are experienced serial entrepreneurs who are resident at the RICS, who act as mentors to clients and guide them as they move through the various stages as they grow their idea in business. We also have a program that provides market intelligence to entrepreneurs and companies in order to gain a better understanding of their target market. And we have a number of capital programs as well, everything from the Investment Accelerator Fund, which actually makes investments in the form of a convertible debenture, to capital network events where clients are groomed in order to present in front of angels and venture capitalists. In terms of our impact, just a few statistics. So over the past number of years, the One and its precursor network have leveraged more than $530 million in private investments, helped to create or retain more than 25,000 jobs, bring more than 1,200 products and services to the market, help clients sell to more than 9,800 customers, and we expect that these numbers will only get better over time now that we are expanding and improving our network. So I'll just leave off with a few resources that you can have a look at. There's the one, the Ministry of Research and Innovation, of course, has a webpage on this. If you go to ontario.ca/innovation, there's also the oneinnovation.ca website, which lists the programming accessible through the One, as well as a feature to help you locate your local RIC so you can start accessing these programs. And as well, we have here listed the websites for the provincial coordinators, MARS and OCE. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Hello again, we're going to get started. For those of you just joining, I'm David Choate from the Ontario Centres of Excellence. I'm going to throw away my binder because the next person I'm going to introduce is Bob Civak from the Ontario Centres of Excellence. Bob is Senior Vice President for Business Development Operations. So all of our business development teams, the delivery of our programs is with Bob. So he's going to talk to us for 10 minutes about those programs. And again, at the end, there'll be some time for some questions. And Bob is going to be here today and tomorrow if you want to track him down after that. So, Bob.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, I'm going to take you through a quick whip on OCE. I'm going to talk a little bit about the centers and the programs and give you a little detail about how it goes. And here we go. So I'm going to do this rapidly, so forgive me for the speed. So I'm going to try to do a 40-minute presentation in 10 minutes. Okay, ready? Okay, ready, set, go. It's like everything else is happening around here. Everything goes rapid fire, rapid speed. By the way, thanks for everybody for coming. So as part of the host organization, we appreciate everybody's time and attendance, and hopefully we make this interesting for you. In case you didn't know, the Ontario Centres of Excellence were established in 1987, for those of you who don't know. How many of you remember that this? No, nobody. Okay, 1987 was a group of independent centers serving multiple sectors, and not only sectors, but areas of scientific focus. So we went the full gambit from science to innovation, and I'll take you through that ride in a minute. Right now, we're a consolidated organization. We're deployed regionally across the province, and we're about many things, and you'll see all kinds of themes, right? But I tried to, how can I capture what we're about in one sentence? So I'm going to say, and some of my colleagues may disagree, but I'm just going to say innovation through industry academic partnerships and the commercialization of research results. That's kind of, and any kind of variations thereabouts. Oh, there you go. That's kind of a confusing slide, so I won't get into the details of it. But basically, that's it's a kind of a common innovation slide, and the only reason I put it up there is actually a simple way. Never mind all this detail. Think on the far left side. Think of that as the ideas, okay? And think on the far right side as the dollar bill, where you get to revenues. So, and these are kind of all the things that happen to get you there. And some of the orgs you're hearing about operate in different areas of this space. Now, the OCE operates in a fairly broad set. It was hard to kind of differentiate where we start and stop, but we certainly don't go all the way back into fundamental science. We did when we were first created, but we don't anymore, not even close. But we really start engaging, and we don't go all the way either. We have a handoff, and actually a nice segue is Don coming up from Mars, because Mars is actually takes things maybe even further to the marketplace. So that's the whole idea of what you heard for the one is the system kind of working and gelling together. This is in essence, we regard ourselves as not just somebody who provides funding for programs, and I'll show you the program suite, but a bunch of services. And one of the main methodology of delivering the services is the OCE business development team. You'll hear that Dave referenced that I have the privilege of leading this team. There's one of the differentiating factors about OCE from other organizations, provincially based organizations, is the fact that we have field personnel out there dealing with the academics, dealing with industry, and making those bridges. So, and there's a whole bunch of services here. I'm not going to get into that, but you'll see different elements of it as I go forward. We are client focused. On that previous slide, it said client focused. And to us, client is industry, and the academic institution is a resource capability, and we try to pull it together. But really, that's kind of a misnomer, because that's idealistic, is demand as opposed to push, demand pull as opposed to push. But really, it is a circle, because ideas come from academics, they can come from industry, and they can go. The whole idea is to connect them so that some kind of magic can happen eventually. So, and that's what the team tries to do, and. Our business development team, I mean, instead of getting into the details of what they do and what they don't, I like to think of it as pretty simple. We speak several languages. We speak academic and we speak industry, and therefore we can translate, because there's different solitudes and different ways of communicating. And in order to do a project, we try to expedite and make it happen quicker. So there you go. You just heard a talk about the one, and you saw where our position is in it. Here we are again, and of course, I won't repeat this because this was pretty well covered off just before by Mark Roseman. But there we are, and in a sense, we run what's called the industry academic side of this program. So let me get into a little bit of detail here for you. So these boxes represent the base programs. So suffice it to say, it's a suite of programs designed optimally to connect industry to resource and capacity and capability, technology, whatever it takes to make something exciting happen by bringing together the resources, capabilities, capacities at our research institutions, which receive billions of dollars worth of funding, to bring them to the marketplace through connection to industry or whatever else it takes, whether it's the creation of a new enterprise or whether it's a connection or a project, whether it's a small initiation project or whether it's a large project. So these are the suites, and I'm going to get into some details. Basically, we divide things up between, we call them, like, research is not the right name, but it's kind of a collaborative scenarios, or talent-based scenarios, which are people-orientated, or commercial, which is going further down the path towards commercialization. Let me go there. Technical problem solving. This is a kind of a unique program to OCE. There's those of you that are familiar with how research works and what companies do and what NSERC does. One of the big differentiating factors with OCE is to provide support and connection for companies to resolve technical problems. These are applications. This is not research. This is application-oriented projects. So unlike an NSERC, we do not have a requirement for advanced science or degree granting in this program. This is simply bringing a company to a resource at a university that can resolve a problem, that can help speed up a product to the marketplace or solve a process. And this has been one of our most successful programs and very popular in terms of from both perspectives. And universities like 10 or 20 years ago couldn't have delivered on this, and it's been an amazing evolution, let's say, because there's so many resources that are like permanently staffed, and the capacities and capabilities, advanced equipment, and certainly the knowledge of how to interact with industry has improved so much that it allows for this program to be utilized. And we have 100 of these projects at any one point in time with 100 different companies really making an impact on their business. As a matter of fact, it's odd. These are 25K projects from our perspective, and it's amazing how much impact you can have with small dollars. Well, 25K from us and some matching cash and in kind from an industry, and that's at the high scale. Some of these go down further, and of course these graduate into either bigger scale projects or commercial ventures at companies. We do have collaborative research still. Our collaborative research, though, is much more conducive to application-orientated. So it's like an extension of what I just showed you. Unlike an NSERC, which has very much more scientific, if a project looked too scientific for us, we would actually recommend that it be taken to NSERC, who we regard as a strategic partner. We would do, but if something on the other hand, where if NSERC said, that's a great project, but there's not enough science in it for us, the key driver is industry wants it. If industry wants it, then we'll back it. And provided an academic institution can deliver on it. Our market readiness is a terminology actually that was invented at OCE. We developed and it has led to many similar types of programs available in the marketplace to support commercialization of intellectual property. So these projects support projects where an intellectual property has already been invented. So there's an invention, there's something there, and this moves it forward. And keep in mind for eligibility of this, because I get asked this all the time, we will only support a market readiness initiative at an academic institution. We will not fund a company direct. The only exception to that would be a spin-off company. If you're a spin-off company and the university will acknowledge you as a spin-off company and they will sign off on the application to OCE, then we will support that, even if the work is happening at the spin-off company. Okay, that's like so think of it as a one-time special, but the university has to sign off on the app, which means they're endorsing you or your company as a spin-off scenario. Okay, I can take questions on that later, or you can talk to me or any of the OCE BD personnel about that, because that's more of a complex scenario and one of the most popular questions about this program. Anyway. Pretty flexible program as well, trying to make something happen. So it allows for a wide variety of things, and we can bridge into things that, but it's not meant to actually replicate things that, say, Mars offers, which is much more company specific than this one. I just reference this program just to let you know that we do it, because it's hard to tell if you're an academic audience, you're probably more interested in this, but we never ran this before at OCE. This is the first year that we've run what's called the Technology Transfer Partnerships. The Technology Transfer Partnerships, this is funding that goes directly to all of our academic institutions to help support their tech transfer offices. So our role in being given this program by the Ministry of Research and Innovation to, in effect, run is to help further engage industry. So that is our mandate with regards to this program, and to try to facilitate the transfer of intellectual properties to the marketplace, be that by licensing to a company that's existing or by the creation of a new enterprise through a startup initiative. Oh, I don't know if I changed that last slide or somebody changed it on because I was out of time. I can't really tell. No, I'm looking there. I wasn't looking at my watch, but that should be my 10 minutes for my 40. So if I went, am I good? Okay. So anyway, there you go. So I can take a question, or I can just not take a question. Okay.
Do you work with companies that are interested in improving their processes? If they have a goal to increase productivity, for example, and they want to improve process and they don't know how to do it, will you get involved in that?
The answer is yes. Although what it depends on what the process was, because remember that who we represent the capabilities of academic institutions. So depending upon what your process is, the academic institution may not have the wherewithal to help you with your process, right? But the academic research capability could in fact enhance elements to work with a company to solve a problem, and we have that a lot. Like chemical industry is a big example of that. Like they know everything there is to know about chemical processing, essentially, right? But occasionally they'll have an idea, say whether a reactor can be used in a certain type of environment, right? And they'll have a concept about it, but the way companies are these days, they don't have the big, large R&D departments like they used to. So they might want to partner with an academic institution to take on a feasibility study to see whether you can tweak a reactor in order to process that particular catalyst. I made that up, but for those, hopefully nobody here is a chemical engineer. If you are, then I apologize for making that up.
In your second last slide there, you had one called IPOP.
Yes.
Can you describe IPOP?
IPOP is that's a proof of principle program. So proof of principle funding with the tech transfer offices. That's money that's available. So we have a program where we provide monies to university tech transfer offices through their networks, where they can, in order to promote new concepts that could be available for commercialization, they have a little bits of, I'm not going to call it play money, but it's quick decision monies to be able to prove a concept. So if let's say an academic says, look, I did this, I developed this widget, and I did it for this company, but you know what? I think it can do this. Like it can refrigerate something, right? So it's like all I need is some money and I can build you a prototype and then we can commercialize it or we can attract the company. That's what that money is for. So proof of principle is a bit of a misnomer because scientific proof of principle is different than this. Okay, yeah. Sorry for the confusion. I did not invent the term POP. That was a government guy who did that.
What's the criteria to choose an institution? Or are you interested in cooperation with international institutions or research center?
We cannot fund an international institution directly. We can fund a project whereby a Ontario-based institution is collaborating with an international institution for the sake of improving the value of the project, and have such projects. No other questions? Excellent. I must have answered anything. If anybody has anything else that they want to ask, any OCE personnel on the floor that you see wearing an OCE shirt or a suit, you can ask them and they can direct you to somebody who can answer any question. Okay, thanks.
We're going to get started so that we can keep the agenda moving forwards. Again, there's 3, 4, 5 chairs at the front here. If you want to come in and sit down, by all means, each of these sessions is 15 minutes long, so don't worry, you're not going to get trapped in here for an hour. Come on in. For those of you just joining us, I'm David Chode. I'm a Vice President at the Ontario Centres of Excellence. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our next Innovation Partner presentation from the Mars Discovery District. For those of you who are here for Mark Roseman's presentation about the One Network, he talked about 2 provincial partners. We've just heard from OCE, and now we're going to hear from Mars. Talking from Mars is Don Duval. He's the Vice President of Business Services at Mars. He's energetic, good-looking, innovative. I just added that. I couldn't resist it. Just to set him off on the right foot. Innovative business leader known for his skills in strategic thinking, program development, collaboration, and implementation in growth-oriented organizations. He's a demonstrated success as a public speaker. Well, I guess we'll see about that in a second. But a musician, an entrepreneur, an angel investor, an engineering professor, and as a leader, of course, at Mars. At Mars, Don's responsible for client services, including advisory services, educational program, community engagement, and talent management. Don's also responsible for corporate strategy, the Mars Operational Performance Management Program, and the Collaboration Technology Platform. Again, 10 minutes, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. Don, of course, will be here for the next couple of days if you want to track him down and ask some more questions. Don.
Thank you, David, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm just going to give you a bit of context about Mars, and then I'm going to focus on explaining Mars as a representative RIC in terms of what we do and how we support the entrepreneurial community. So first and foremost, for those that don't know, Mars is a nonprofit innovation center at the corner of college and university. Our mandate and broad mission is to help create successful businesses from Canada's science and technology. More tactically, we work with early stage science and technology entrepreneurial ventures and innovative social purpose ventures and help these companies grow. And if you want to put that into a real clear perspective, our measure of success is going to be the amount of jobs and the amount of wealth our portfolio of companies create whilst working with us. So, if you put that in a scenario perspective, 10, 15 years out, if there is no material amount of jobs and or wealth created by the work that Mars has done, have we failed? Absolutely. So that is a driver of if we have one more hour or one more dollar to spend, we're going to make a subjective decision and say, let's put our resources behind these companies that have a high probability. They could be at the very nascent stages and still have a large market opportunity, and we'll build a team around them and help them grow. But that is crystal clear, our broad visionary statement, who we serve, and how we measure our success. So I wanted to put things in perspective as to where we fit. Mark briefly spoke about the broad strategy for the Ministry of Research and Innovation to create the One Network. And this is absolutely paramount. From a global competitiveness perspective, we have a huge disadvantage as a country. We have a massive expanse of land and we have 33 million people. So without the ability to bring together, in this case, 14 regional innovation centers that are very Mars-like in terms of the services and their mandate, without bringing these 14 entities together to create what I call a virtual density, we will have a significant challenge competing on the global economic market. So the rationale for this work that the ministry has done to bring us together, to work together, to share resources, to enable us to reach out and have questions is absolutely paramount, not only from a regional or provincial level, but from a national level in terms of the global competitive landscape. So I briefly alluded to what we do, but let me put it into context of an entrepreneur. And as I said earlier, there are 14 regional innovation centers in the network. I'm going to have the bias by virtue of where I work to explain it from the perspective of Mars, but the other entities in the network have similar client needs and similar services, just at different levels of scale depending on their region and the catchment area that they serve. Sorry, that was supposed to be queued up with a flashy slide. There we are. So we frequently do pulse check surveys of our clients, saying, what are the core things you as early stage entrepreneurs need? And for the entrepreneurs in the audience, these are fairly clear. First and foremost, they need access to mentorship and advice. Secondly, connections to capital. Thirdly, connections to customers. Fourthly, partners. And lastly, talent. Each entrepreneur might order those in a slightly different area, but these are the core representative needs of all the entrepreneurs in the communities that most of the regional innovation centers serve. So what I want to do is, well, how do we meet those needs? How do we help them? So again, from the perspective of Mars, our core engine room as we define it is our advisory services group. This is, you can liken this to a traditional consultancy in many ways. We have about 100 advisors of record currently at Mars, about 60 of which are volunteers from our community. And the role of these individuals who have exceptional entrepreneurial backgrounds themselves or exceptional business acumen are to sit down, meet with the entrepreneur, understand what are their needs, how we can build a roadmap to get them to their goals, and give them critical advice and homework to get to the next stage. In addition to that, though, someone asked a question earlier about capacity building. Beyond the actual consultative advice, Mars, from a provincial level, has created what will soon become, in my opinion, the world's preeminent collection of entrepreneurship educational resources in the world. There are many indicators and data points I can give you to validate that, and we're trending towards that. But on the Mars DD URL, we have a whole repository of videos, articles, workbooks, podcasts, all built on feedback we've received from the entrepreneurial community, how they want to learn, when they want to learn, real time. That is supplemented with a whole suite of in-person programs that we have at the Mars Discovery District, again, building that capacity of the entrepreneurial community. In addition to that, we also have a fully equipped market research group. So for those that have been in the Mars Center before, up on our 4th floor, we have a dedicated team of 6 to 8 analysts who have access to the leading research databases, Forrester, Gartner, AMR, etc., that can work with the advisors, work with the education team and the entrepreneur to say, where are there gaps in your business plan? Let us do that market research for you, provide you with the secondary research reports, and you can fill in those gaps in your business plan. Everything I've described to this point is free to the entrepreneur. Why? Early stage entrepreneurs, cash flow is a bit of a challenge, so you can't really charge an hourly rate for these services. Second challenge, as I mentioned, connections to capital. So at Mars, we do a couple of things, two-pronged strategy. One, we have a series of capital connection events. So we run monthly angel breakfast series. We run ad hoc, but seemingly it appears to be monthly venture capital events and corporate venture partner events. The desired outcome of that are bringing these qualified sources of capital together with qualified high potential deal flow that we have vetted, and we're telling the capital community that we have some companies in our portfolio that are worth 20 minutes of your time. And we want to make those connections for some desired outcome related to investment. In addition to the connections, Mars does, as Mark Roseman alluded to earlier, we do administer an early stage seed fund, the Investment Accelerator Fund. That is a Mars administered program. It is a provincial pool of capital. It's about $7.5 to $8 million investable per year. Very favorable terms, typically in the form of a convertible debenture up to $500,000 for nascent revenue early stage companies. Bundled together, that is how we're working to meet the capital challenge of the company. The main focus for our organization over the next 12 months is further connections into the international sources of capital. But the beauty of this is, over the last 5 years, Mars has built the reputation and the brand that we are a high-quality deal flow engine, and the international sources of capital are now coming to Mars saying, hey, here's our innovation strategy, here's our acquisition strategy, what do you have in your portfolio? Quite exciting, actually. Customers and partners. If a company has the cash flow, if the company has a good team of mentors and advisors to help them along, absolutely they need for more and more connections to customers. So it is imperative upon all the regional innovation centers to really leverage the backyard resources in their communities, the corporate partners. And the onus is on the innovation centers to reach out to those large corporate partners to get them excited about our entrepreneurial community and entrepreneurial companies in our portfolio. Why? Well, there's a whole series of desired outcomes. It could be enabling that entrepreneur to have a beta test site with a valid, highly referenceable customer. It could be a direct customer. It could be for an acquisition. It could be a channel partner. It could be a supplier. We need to bring those two together, much like Bob alluded to in the IACP presentation earlier. Imperative we get that community engaged. And as I alluded to earlier, this also could be partners, someone that could just help these early stage companies. Without that cultural paradigm of getting these large corporates excited about our entrepreneurial community and entrepreneurial ventures, it's going to continue to be very challenging. And then lastly, talent. Now, many entrepreneurs, especially the founders and CTOs, may disagree that they need more talent to the team and they can do it themselves. We, quite frankly, provide the critical advice and knowledgeable intervention, as I like to call it, that companies at the nascent stages do have skill gaps, again, believe it or not, in their own opinions. But for those that do, they will reach out to us saying, hey, I'm pre-revenue, limited cash flow, I need to find an SVP of sales and marketing. How do I do that? Where do I go? I don't even know how to write a job profile. I'm an engineer or a technologist. We want to build a dedicated team that'll help with the talent side to help these companies refine that, develop creative comp models with stock, options, equity that doesn't take out cash flow challenges. That's kind of on the demand side. On the supply side, the regional innovation centers are getting the brand reputation whereby if you're at a stage in your career and you want to join an early stage company, where do you go? You would come into the Regional Innovation Center and you would say, hey, here's my background, here are my skills and expertise, and we want to do that matchmaking, much like many of the larger recruiting firms do, to bring these two entities together. So again, if you recall, the core needs, business and mentorship, capital, talent, partners, and customers, Those are what we hear from frequent pulse check surveys from our companies. And as I walk through these slides, these are the things that Mars specifically and the Regional Innovation Center partners that we have throughout the network are doing, again, to varied levels depending on the size. I would be remiss if I didn't share some exciting news of some of our clients. Again, many of these companies have had unbelievable success, either through acquisition, revenue growth, adding members to their team, different channel strategies, different partners. These are across 4 practices that we have at Mars: an IT group, a clean tech advanced materials group, a life sciences and healthcare group, and a innovative social purpose business group. So again, I get jazzed about the companies, so I would be remiss if I didn't show this. And I am concluding with that slide there. So if you have any questions, by all means, I will be here, and I will more than happy to stand on the hallway as well if you have anything. Yeah.
What does Mars mean?
Well, I get that question all the time. Mars, with the genesis of Mars, it used to stand for medical and related sciences. Our founder was much more aligned with the life sciences and healthcare industry. However, it no longer stands for anything. We just maintain the same brand. And what's representative of that is about 40 to 50% of our portfolio of 700 entrepreneurial clients that we have are in the ICE space: information technology, communications, and entertainment. Clean tech's about 20%, life sciences and healthcare is about 20%, and innovative social purpose businesses is about 20%. Pretty significant evolution over the last 5 years, whereby when we opened our doors, we were primarily life sciences and healthcare. Yeah, one more question?
So if I walked into a RIC and wanted some of this mentoring advice that you're offering, if the RIC was in Hamilton or something,
yep,
would they have access to your resources, or how would that work?
Absolutely. So each RIC is equipped with a team relative to their forecasted activity and catchment regions of the entrepreneurial community. If there is a business need of an entrepreneur that walked into the Hamilton RIC, for example, that they did not have the capacity to serve, either by virtue of workload and or skill sets, be it functional industry, they would then reach out to the other 14 members saying, hey, we have a client with these needs, who can help? Therein lies the benefits of remote mentorship via Skype if logistically it's in Windsor or in Ottawa and the entrepreneur can't make it there realistically. That's the beauty of the one network that Mark was speaking to earlier, and it's great. We do Skype calls all the time now with Thunder Bay and Ottawa, trying to do whatever we can to meet the needs of the entrepreneurial client. Okay, anything further? Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
It's my great pleasure to introduce our next innovation partner presentation from the Networks of Centers of Excellence. Here to present is Jean-Claude Gavrel. He's the Associate Vice President of the Tri-Council Initiatives at the Networks of Centers of Excellence. Jean-Claude was appointed Associate Vice President in 2007, having served as Program Director since 2000. Under his leadership, the program has acquired expanded responsibilities and launched several new initiatives, including the Centers of Excellence for Commercialization and Research, the business-led NCESs, and the Industrial R&D Internship Program. Jean-Claude has broad and intimate knowledge of the issues surrounding R&D partnerships, gained over 25 years working in both public and private research organizations. If you have any questions, again, there'll be some time for those at the end of the presentation, and Jean-Claude, I'm sure, will be around to answer them later if you wish. So without further ado, Jean-Claude.
Merci, David. Bienvenue à la session sur les réseaux de centres d'excellence. Welcome all. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to be at the OCE Discovery, and they are close partners of ours. I'm going to try and keep to the time. Being a French, I have a tendency to over-talk, so hopefully the green button moves me ahead, I gather? Yes, perfect. I like to start from the beginning. What is our mandate in the NCE programs? And our mandate is one of mobilization of the best research talents and apply it to improving the quality of life of Canadians through the economy, through the better health, and of course to better social systems. We are part of an ecosystem which is now governed by the Federal Science and Technology Strategy, first presented in 2007. And I highlighted the entrepreneurial component of that strategy. It has the people and the research, the knowledge advantage. what we do at the NCE suite of programs touches on people, touches on knowledge, but I think our primary focus is the entrepreneurial, i.e. the linking of the people, the knowledge, and ultimately the organizations that are going to apply this to our benefits. We are working very much within the core principles, and I'll let you read those at the bottom of the slide. The excellence, well, has been our trademark, and of course the focus and the accountability and the partnerships. I hope this slide can be seen at the back. I'll have more details on further slides, but to try and very quickly map out, and there's a confusion in our name. We call ourselves the Networks of Centers of Excellence, and yet we manage a program that is also called the Networks of Centers of Excellence, and then we have individual Networks of Centers of Excellence. So sometimes you'll see this terminology used in different. So I will talk about the NCE, and here we've indicated NCE Networks as our first program that was created over 20 years ago. This is a program that supports a complete range of activities for the longer term aspect. As you can see here, we can fund them close to 14, 15 years in total. And we support the research activities, we support the knowledge and technology transfer activities, we support networking, and of course we support some of the overall administration for these network and centers. The second program that we launched, and that was back in 2007, are the Centers of Excellence for Commercialization and Research. These are very focused, and their mandate is really to take what we have in terms of existing knowledge or existing capacity in innovation that is ready to go to the next stage, how we can help create value add with those through commercialization or application. And here we support them for a period of 5 years. So as you can see, it's very different scale. It's also a very different scale in terms of the size of the program and the activities we support. We focus specifically on the commercialization activities and on the operation of a center. The third major program that I've qualified under the innovation heading is the business-led Networks of Centers of Excellence. And that program was launched in 2008. And it resembles the NCE in that, again, we support all of the activities, including research, including knowledge and technology transfer, including administration. But it's very different in that it is right away led by groups of industries, okay, as opposed to led from a research perspective. A few little, if you wish, more words on each of these programs. If you think of the NCE as a research center, okay, it would be a virtual one, as in distributed across the country, linking the best groups around, and that's the notion of networks of centers. But as an entity, it really develops a business plan, as in a research plan. It develops targets. It is working in a combination, looking at solving major problems that need a longer time. And over the years, it's also developing the partnership with the receptor and the users. Okay, we used to fund them in 2 cycles of 7 years. The new ones started since 2000, I guess, and 10 or so, 9, I believe. We now fund them on 5-year cycles, up to 2 cycles. So it dramatically changes, and our expectations are essentially that in the 10 years they will reach the level of maturity that the first generation of networks reached in about 14 years. And they have a possibility for a 3rd cycle of 5 years if they transform themselves into a receptor-led network. So suddenly you use your first cycle to develop the research, the technology, generate the knowledge. The second cycle is really consolidation, focusing on key areas, building your partnership. And the third cycle, your partners are now taking over the direction of the network. And it's a natural progression if you think of any technology. You want at one point to get your end users to have it. The Centers of Excellence for Commercialization. The objective of the program is to build world-class, and that's the excellence, if you wish, hubs of expertise, either in a particular application area, or we've also seen some groups coming in with expertise in terms of helping entrepreneurs launch businesses and support them throughout. So we have quite a range of different models being used there. One of the reasons we have a very close relationship with the Ontario Centres of Excellence is we're supporting within the OCE a Centre for Commercialization of Research called exactly that, CCR. And that group is really providing mentorship and support through executive in residence, through other kind of means, to promising startups. And those startups, of course, the first place they will look for is within their portfolio, what they've been supporting for many years. And through the CCR, they now can have one more tool to help in the success of these organizations. But we also have centers that would be focused on a particular research area. We have one in vaccines, we have one in the area of green technologies, we have one in the area of bioindustrial, fuels and so on. The business-led, a new model, new in the sense that giving industry a capacity to build a network. And of course, as you can see, this will be multiple companies working together, so it'll be addressing problems in particular key areas. I've indicated that it's a pilot in the sense that we have funding for 4 years. We're now about halfway through, and we are obviously evaluating how we're proceeding with that and how it's doing. 4 interesting key areas, if you think about it. They correspond to areas of strength of Canada. One is in green aerospace, so how to reduce noise and fuel consumption. Another area is in the area of nanocellulose, nanocrystalline cellulose, so how we can use our forest products to better. Another area in petroleum research, and the 4th area is in the area of drug development. So different areas, but in all instances, it's a group of companies that got together to develop and advance technologies that will serve them all. And we also have a people program, and that's the Industrial R&D Internship. This is delivering about 1,000 internship per year, placing students at the master, PhD, or postdoc level. So again, students that are research trained in industry environment for a period of 1 or 2 terms. Okay? Currently, the program is being delivered by 2 organizations. One is the MITAX Accelerate, and the second one is the Auto 21 Connect. And I think both groups are here in one form or another. I think some of you might even have a Auto 21 Connect lanyard around your neck. And I think MITAX's Accelerate is also represented. Very successful in what it's doing, and we're happy to see this program go. The governance, and I think it's important to know that the NCE is a very complex beast, but it's one of its strengths. And the complexity comes from the fact that it has all 3 granting agencies involved, also the Department of Industry and the Department of Health are the 2 federal agencies. As you can see from this little picture, we make extensive use of external expertise. We are basically administrators. We use peer review for every selection of projects. We have both a private sector advisory board for the industry-related programs, and we have a selection committee for the more, if you wish, research-driven programs. And we draw on expertise here. I'm pleased to report that even in the room today, we have the president of NSERC, who is chairing the steering committee of the NCE program. We measure a lot in the NCE, and that's why we can make claims about 20 years plus of impact in terms of the number of people that participate, in terms of the networking and the collaboration, the partnership, the support in terms of cash and in-kind that has been contributed, as well as measuring some of the outputs, whether it's peer-reviewed publications, but one in terms of collaborative. One of the tenets of the program is, of course, multidisciplinary research. We measure the number of students that go through. We measure things like patents, licensing, and so on. And over the years, we've been able to provide this material, which has been, I think, one of the reasons why back in 2007 additional programs were given to the Tri-Council to manage, because it's been managed with results. And I think that's the last of my slide. There will be a few that will flip through automatically, so that simply lists the network and centers by sector.
So welcome to the last session of the afternoon. For those of you just joining us, I'm David Choate from the Ontario Centres of Excellence. Our final presentation of the day will be from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, NSERC as we usually call it. And here to present is Tibor Turi. Tibor is the manager of I'm going to call it NSERC if that's okay with Tibor. Tibor's the manager of NSERC, NSERC's regional office in Ontario. Located in Mississauga's Sheridan Research Park, his principal focus, along with the NSERC Ontario staff, is to facilitate and support academic industrial research partnerships in Ontario, particularly with small to medium-sized companies. Prior to joining NSERC, Tibor held various leadership roles in research and development, technical design, product engineering, and product market development in the materials and manufacturing industries. During 14 years of private sector experience, he traveled throughout North America and internationally to perform a variety of technical and strategic functions related to innovation, technology advancement, and business development, and was an advocate of industry-university collaboration. Again, we'll have about 10 minutes, and if you have any questions at the end, Tibor will be happy to take them. Thank you, Tibor.
Okay, thank you very much. First slide I have here is a nice spring day in northern Canada, and it's also a cool place to do research. That's what Canada is. But today we're going to focus on one aspect, if this works, creating new industry academic research collaborations. And that's a little bit different. We're going to focus in on a few different programs in a few different areas. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about NSERC. NSERC is one of the Tri-Council, and we're just one of the agencies, along with CIHR, Canadian Institute for Health Research, and Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. Of course, we deal with natural sciences and engineering. So now it's appropriate that we discuss what we do at NSERC, where we invest, and why. So the vision for NSERC here is to provide a sustainable competitive advantage through an integrated approach to science and technology. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's have a look at the NSERC triangle, as we call it. On the 3 points of the triangle, we have knowledge, fundamental knowledge and research there. We have people on the other corner. And finally, the least well-known aspect of NSERC, perhaps, is the entrepreneurial side or the innovative side, where we deal with companies and research collaborations. This is the area that NSERC Ontario, our regional office, deals with most closely. So our funding stream priorities basically go in those three areas. People, student support, 29,500 students or so. Discovery, research programs for 11,800 university professors. Innovation in the form of research partnerships. About 700 research projects involving 1,500 partners, and we're continually adding to that, especially through our regional office. Our budget is about $1 billion. As you can see here, divided out, people is about 28%, discovery is a strong 37%, and the aspect that we're going to talk about in this presentation is innovation. That 30%. We're going to talk about a specific part of that as well. If you look across Canada, where does NSERC invest its money in total? And as it happens, Ontario is probably it is the biggest portion of that investment, over $380 million worth of that $1 billion. The NSERC organization comprised of about 420 staff nationally, headquartered in Ottawa. In addition, there are regional offices, 5 of them across Canada. Ontario is circled there. We are actually a major tool for accomplishing this. Some new programs, which we're going to talk about in some detail, and new partnerships. So one of the big things that we have to offer in the regional office are our interaction and engage grants. These 2 programs have some very interesting features. It provides an opportunity for 2 potential collaborators to get to know one another. It identifies a company-specific challenge to focus on, explores a strategy to solve that particular problem, and try out a short collaboration. And at the end, hopefully there's enough value created that there's a partnership that will continue on. All right, so let's look at these in a little bit more detail. The Interaction Grant, this is just the first in a whole spectrum of possible avenues of investment that we can make into innovation in Ontario. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch here, not in a great deal of detail, but in enough detail that you'll understand what may be potentially offered. If you're a business, this may be of interest to you. If you're a researcher, this will also be of interest to you. So the Interaction Grant is targeted at forming a new relationship. It's really for travel and meeting expenses for an academic researcher to go visit a company, basically break down the barriers of geography in this large country of ours and allow these meetings to take place and hopefully lead on to something a little more substantial. So that's up to $5,000 that has to be used up within 3 months. Next, we have Engage Grants. This has been a very popular program that we've had. Already in Ontario, we've given away some 300 of these grants with hopefully proportionate response in other programs as well. But anyway, it's all about the new relationship. We are focusing on the relationship here. 6 months to get to know each other, work together on a first project, up to $25,000. And a great feature for companies is there's no cash required. You don't have to put down cash. That's one of the great barriers to working together in collaboration with an academic researcher. So we've removed that at NSERC. And there's no application deadline. We deal with all the applications in the regional office system. And that way we can respond very quickly. So our turnaround time we target is 4 to 6 weeks. And we've been doing fairly well given the volumes that we've been seeing. Another similar grant related is called the Partnership Workshop Program. This is kind of like Engage, and it's intended not just for one-on-one meetings, but for a group of potential collaborators on the research and on the company side who have a common interest, want to attack, want to address, want to dig into, in some greater detail, a specific problem that they want to address together, and hopefully bring out some new collaborations together as a result. So that's up to $25,000 for this meeting to explore these possibilities. Again, no application deadline. Now there's also industrial scholarships and fellowships, which is interesting because the more I speak to companies, the more they are amazed that NSERC has these programs. What this means is basically it will allow a company to offset its risk at bringing new people on, highly qualified people at various levels. I'm not going to go through the various levels, but they exist right on up from undergraduate right to a postdoc level. So there's a lot of possibility there for working together with future HQP that maybe some people you may want to hire into your organization and try them out first. Next we have our Regional Opportunities Fund. Very, very popular in Ontario has been the Regional Opportunities Fund. It's typically $1,000 to $5,000 in size, and it is focused on special activities and events that focus on natural sciences and engineering, and it's all aimed at partnership. We're looking for academic researchers and businesses to come together at a specific event, often sectorally based, focused on, let's say, ICT, or it could be manufacturing, or it could be some other focus area where the respective sides may have something in common they may want to work together on. And we've had quite a number of these right across the province. It's been a very effective tool. In fact, it's been the most effective way that the word has gotten out about our Engage grants. Again, no application deadline. When you're ready, we're ready to see it as well. Now, once you're finished with your Engage grant, now you might be ready to go on to the next big step, and that's a full-blown grant, a collaborative research and development grant that you will pursue through Ottawa. That these grants are offered, obviously, by our colleagues in Ottawa, not administered through us. However, ultimately, we hope that the research relationships that are put together and forged in Engage will eventually transform themselves into longer-term, sustained relationships in research and innovation through the CRD grants. So this is for a highly focused type of an R&D project. It can be anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000 a year. Basically, justify your case. It's wide open as to what you can do, and from 1 to 5 years in duration as well. So you can have short-term, medium-term, long-term objectives. It's pretty much open for discussion. Now let's talk about another grant. This is another special one because it deals with a whole area of post-secondary activity that we haven't touched on till now, and that is the colleges. We have now some college programs. The applied R&D grants address the college applied research that we have recognized as being so important to innovation for Ontario's future and the nation's future. We have 3 different levels that we offer for applied R&D grants. Up to $25,000, again, 6 months. It sounds very much like an Engage, and it is designed that way. Again, this is for a new relationship. We have the first level. The second level, it's up to $75,000 for up to 3 years. And the third level, up to over $75,000 for about 3 years. Please note, you will have to go through the process with external peer review and potentially committee review as you go up the scale as well. Now I'm going to go into one aspect that we cannot ignore when it comes to companies. They're always interested in tax dollars. Taxes are very important, yet there's opportunities in taxes that are often hidden. And when I speak with various companies, many of them are not aware of the tax implications of doing research and development in Ontario, for example. So we have an example here. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but suffice it to say that if you work together with NSERC, you have the potential to, if you look at the bottom line, you can have a very large project. For example, in this example, you have a $240,000 total value project to the company. But ultimately, once you factor in all the tax benefits and other good things, your out-of-pocket is only about $33,000. So this is not meant, the disclaimer I'm giving you here is that it's not meant to be an exact example. Please consult your tax professional because everyone's case differs. However, the example is clear. There are definitely benefits to be had by looking at your taxes and doing R&D work that way. Similarly, for industrial fellows, there's also tax benefits to doing the same thing. In this case, and again, I'm not going to go through the example, but the fellow's salary of $55,000, those wages really transform only to a few $1,000s once you factor in all of the tax implications. Very, very important if you're a company, and very important to get that message across as well. And finally, here is a slide that compares. It's comparative. We call it comparative shopping for industrial R&D. That is, what is the benefit? You may say, fine, you get the tax benefit, but what if we do that same work in-house as a company on our own? What if we go to a university contract? And how does that compare with going with NSERC? So we have worked through 3 different examples to do just that. And the ultimate net cost on the bottom is indicated here. So for this example, for the $240,000 project, for example, we have various SR&ED claims we can make, and ultimately the credits. Once you do the math, net cost $92,000 for your in-house, which is very good. If you go to a university contract, it's about $68,000 out of pocket. but the best scenario actually is to leverage your money with NSERC. In this example, again, it's about $33,000. Again, the disclaimer is consult your tax professional on your particular case to have a look at your own numbers. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or would like to find out more about any of our programs, we have a booth immediately to my right. You can probably see them off there. We have all kinds of materials for you. Depending on what your interest is, we'd love to have you and describe them for you. And if there are any questions, I can take them right now as well. Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tibor. We'll bring to a close this afternoon's session. Before I do that, I want to again mention, I mentioned before, after Jean-Claude had spoken, the 2 + 2 = 5 with the Network Centre of Excellence and OCE, the great advantage we have by working closely together. This is the second thing. We, both of us between us, conspired to not mention that we're co-located in the Sheridan Research Park down in there in Mississauga. So there's something about sharing the same cup of coffee, same jug of coffee with each other that really gets beyond all of the things that happens when two organizations come together and gets you focused on actually helping the people and joining the dots. And if any of you have sat through this whole session, you'll get a sense of how bewildering sometimes all the resources out there are. And so the ability to join them together and make it simple for the clients is really what we're striving to do. So with that, please enjoy the rest of the show. The show's going on for another hour. Hopefully you're here tomorrow. We've got another full day of these sessions tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.